am just about to start on my Nine Creeks loop. I am at the Sand Creek Greenway. I've walked about a half a mile to get here. I'm going to go east. I'm in Denver. It's Monday, June, I think it's the 23rd. It's about 85 degrees. The great thing about Denver is the mountains are always in the west, so I'm walking east away from the mountains. I started here because I live about a half a mile from here. I'm just north of I-70, just east of Quebec. If you go north on the Sand Creek, not this right here, but if you come around this way and you catch the spur, within a half a mile you've got a Target, an Outdoor World, a Starbucks, mini restaurants, a mall, lots of places to get refreshments, a Staybridge Suites. And then if you go this way, you're going to take your life into your hands because there's no safe crossing underneath I-70. But if you do decide to risk it, there are several hotels, a King Soopers, lots of shopping, and so on. It is rush hour. It's nice to not be on the interstate, and you certainly can hear all of the folks commuting. My goal today is to walk probably 5 miles, walk about a half mile to get to this point. We're officially starting. I am calling this mile 1, or mile 0 to mile 1 of the Sand Creek, on the Sand Creek of the Nine Creeks loop. So here we go, off on our 40-mile adventure that should take about 10 days. And we're off, and the first thing I see welcome me to the trail looks like some evidence of some homeless folks, and you can certainly see that there's grocery carts here full of paraphernalia, I guess. Perhaps some folks living there in the trees. We're just going to walk on. I'm not necessarily going to narrate the whole thing. I do have my GPS tracking me, map my walk, and I think I've got the audio on, so we'll know if I hit a particular mile marker, because there are no markers on this part of the trail. So, camera, and you can see Outdoor World over there to the north. This is I-70 that we will walk under here in a minute, and in front of us is the Sand Creek Greenway. We've had a very hot summer so far, and 85 degrees is quite a scorcha, as they would say from the northeast, especially since it's about 5:30. So should be cooling off here soon. It'll be much nicer later on the walk. I have a hat with me from Wallaroo Hats that I hope to give out today. Look at the nice waterfall over there. It's pretty. And here we go. Now, I have walked this path a couple of times, and you always see grocery carts, because there's some homeless population that lives down here to the right. And the Sand Creek Greenway has done a great job of trying to help out the homeless, get them relocated, and so on. But Denver is a great place in the summertime, particularly, and we attract a large homeless population in the summertime. So the challenge is 365, 24/7, managing some of the homeless population, even in the wintertime, believe it or not, here in Denver. So we're walking under I-70 with the Sand Creek Greenway to my north, and we're about to cross over our first footbridge. Now, what's interesting, when this area floods, because we're in a floodplain, this footbridge gets knocked out. So the Highline Conservancy, Sand Creek Greenway, is hoping to move this bridge a little bit north so that it's not at this pinch point for the river. Now, see this trail going up right here? If you go up there and cross a vacant lot that's owned by Colorado DOT, you'll come up to the back of a Marriott. I think it's an Embassy Suites, or maybe a Courtyard. And in between here and there, you often find the homeless living, and you can see there's some evidence of them. Because it's impossible right now to cross south on Quebec, there is a movement to try, I'm going to take a picture here. There is a movement to try to get a trail going up this way, which will get you under I-70 and over to Quebec in a little bit more safer manner. The DOT's been looking at it. I'm not sure how successful we're going to be getting a temporary structure right up through that way, because Highway 70 right here is on a 5-year plan for expansion, and in that expansion it will open up the pedestrian access on Quebec, but that's 5 years from now, so, or within the next 5 years. So I'm certainly hopeful we can get a temporary access going there, because trying to do commerce from north of I-70 to south of I-70 by pedestrian access or even by bicycle is next to impossible, because there's this bottleneck on Quebec that only trucks and cars can go. There's literally not even 2 inches or even the width of a bicycle track to get across or get under I-70 on Quebec. So hopefully that will get fixed. I'm going to stop up here in the shade and just double check that my video is going, because I would be very upset if it were not. Matter of fact, I think if I turn my camera on backwards, I'll be able to see my red flashing light if I get my camera to flip. Let's see. Is my red light flashing? Yes, it is. So great. Just double checking hardware, making sure we don't have user error this time. And we're off. So this is the Sand Creek Trail. This is about the only part of my entire loop that's pebble. The rest of it is mostly concrete. Now, if you don't want to walk the pebble trail, you can go north a half a mile and catch a concrete trail. And I think that's called the Front Range Trail. Some people call it the Sand Creek Extension. But you can certainly go that way either. It's kind of nice to be sneaking along the commuter traffic over there along the creek all by myself, talking to you. Hats gave me to give out to a walker tonight. I'm not thinking I'm going to see one along in here. This is a pretty, even though you got major traffic to our north, it's a pretty desolate area, and not a lot of people walk it because they're over on that concrete path I mentioned before. You can see all the tire tracks though. The bicycles coming along in here. Most folks are probably on mountain bike tires, because we have these wonderful things called goat heads here. Some people call them goat heads. There's these other spurs, but they're about that big. And no matter what tires you have, you're out of luck if you run across them. And they are along this trail. So if you're going to bike it, make sure you have a repair kit. So this Nine Creeks Loop is about 40 miles. As you can tell, we started off on mile 0 on the Sand Creek Trail. We'll go about, I'm thinking about 6 miles on the Sand Creek, and then we'll head south on the Highline Canal, and we'll wiggle our way through Aurora, and we'll just brush up on the Cherry Creek Reservoir, where we'll pick up the Cherry Creek Trail. At that point, we'll start heading northwesterly, and the mountains will come in view, which will be great. And we'll be on the High Line, I would say probably 8 miles, and we'll pick up the Cherry Creek, probably, I don't know if it's quite 8 miles, we'll see, which will take us into downtown Denver. There's a wonderful trail in downtown Denver called the Platte River Trail. We'll pick up that and head north. We'll be on that for about 10 miles. So if you're doing the addition, I think we're probably at about 35 miles or so. And then the Platte River Trail will connect with the Sand Creek again. And we'll take a right and go east, probably southeast more, on the Sand Creek, getting us back to mile 0. I didn't tell you we were in Denver. I'm looking at all this nice tall grass here. You think we're on a prairie somewhere. And if you know Denver geography, you know that the prairie, the high prairie, runs right up to the foothills. And Denver actually is in the high prairie, right before you get to the mountains. A lot of folks come to Denver, bypass Denver, and go right to the mountains for all the great mountain sports, which I don't blame them, because the mountains are beautiful. Rocky Mountains are amazing. A billion things to do up there all year round. But surprisingly, to those who aren't from Denver, there is an amazing trail system right here in Denver. And my goal with the 9 Creeks Loop is to expose you to some of that trail system. There's probably, I don't know, about 1,000 miles of trail right along the Front Range that is mostly maintained by the Denver Regional Park System. Denver Regional Trail System. But many jurisdictions, many governments, many counties, many advocacy groups associate themselves with different parts of the trails. So I was telling you, about a half a mile to the north of the trail. Of course, you can't cross it right here because that's the interstate. But you see the Harkins Theater, lots of restaurants over there. Of course, if your gear has failed and you need some more gear, you can drop in at Outdoor World. That's Bass Pro Shop. I think it's one of the biggest in the country. Just a little bit to the east there, you see the Drury Home Suites. Back over this way on the other side of Outdoor World are the Staybridge Suites. And there's another Marriott property coming in over here as well. You can see it under construction in the light blue. So there's an Olive Garden, Red Lobster. My favorite restaurant is this little family-owned, independent Italian restaurant called Salati. You can get Italian street food. It's the best. So make sure you stop in there if you're hungry. Dead baby bird and some thistle. Check the odometer. See where we are. We're at a little over 2/3 of the mile. This tall stuff is mullein. That's its seed head. When it's 2 years old, it sprouts this seed head. And supposedly you can use it for different teas for stomach ailments. Don't quote me though. I'm certainly not a medicinal doctor, medicinal herb doctor by any means. Its first year is this little guy right here, that little, looks like a spurge actually. That's the first year, and then the second year it gets its stalk. And when it stays, it gets its stalk for the rest of the time after that. go out on my mountain bike, which I have to admit is not that often because usually I'm walking. I like to come on this trail because it's kind of a little secret. Not many people use it. It's just a quick, easy way to get on a trail without having to load the bike up in the car or go somewhere. So we're in between two sections of Stapleton. Sorry. We're in two sections of Stapleton. So Stapleton Airport was an airport that was built in 1929 here in Denver. And when they built it, it was way out from downtown, out in Rattlesnake Holler. There was lots of controversy, and the aviation industry was just starting to take off, and people just weren't quite sure. But nonetheless, they built it, and Amelia Earhart landed here, and a lot of famous pilots landed here. And it grew and grew, expanded twice, expanded north of I-70 after I-70 was built. And in 1985, folks started to complain about the noise and all kinds of reasons to complain. So the FAA put some height restrictions on the downtown buildings because the big jets couldn't land. So in 95, they closed the airport and opened the new Denver International Airport, which is about 15-20 miles outside town. History repeats itself, right? Anyway, and then a developer called Forest City got the bid to tear up the airport, a lot of its buildings, redevelop it as an urban, walkable neighborhood. So at first people were